Hello everybody, my name is FREESTYLE, and in today's video we will be building a nice and simple little Minecraft starter house because I'd like to improve my skills and I'd like to teach you guys some skills that I've picked up along the way as I've been building on Minecraft. So without further ado, let's begin. Alright, well before we actually begin, we need to figure out a block palette. As you can see on Minecraft, there are a whole lot of blocks, which is good, but also kind of bad because we have way too many choices. But we're gonna keep it nice and simple because after all, this is a starter house. So I'm gonna go with stripped spruce logs, oak planks, and then I think we're also gonna include some stones. I think that's pretty important. So we'll include cobblestone. Let's also include stone bricks. I think that'll be pretty cool. I think that'll be something like that. But then also for the roof, I do want to. Here, we'll see. Oh, I'm thinking about it. For the roof, we'll see how spruce stairs and oak stairs look like. But I also definitely want to try using some deep slate because I feel like as you play, you'll kind of pick up a few blocks, as you're in the mines. So I think honestly, either one of these could look pretty good. But then I also would like to use some brick, and I guess granite while we're at it, for a possible chimney for the house. So here's the block palette. I think this is pretty solid. I think it's pretty good. But without further ado, I guess let's begin planning the build. Okay, so for the size of the house, I'm not entirely sure how big I'd like to build it. I think we're gonna make it fairly big. So I want the interior to be 5 blocks, at least 5 blocks, because it gives us quite a lot of space to work with. And we're gonna make it kind of long. Something like this. 11 blocks across. I think that's fine. On the inside, I definitely want a 3-block tall interior. And then for the second story, I think we're gonna go 1 block out. And we're gonna make it a little bit taller. Honestly, I think it looks pretty nice and we can really make something great with this. So let's go ahead and add in the rest of the supports. Okay, so here is how it looks like with all the blocks inside. And honestly, I think this looks pretty dang solid. But now we have to figure out the roof. Now, I don't want to make the roof too tall. And thankfully, we do have that 1 block center. Now, so that technically means that this house will be 3 stories high. And in my opinion, I think that's okay. Because it is a survival house, we kind of want plenty of space for both storage, living space, and all the different crafting tables and whatnot that you might have. So I think this actually looks pretty solid. I guess we're ready to start, adding these blocks in. Alright, so I've got here my stripped logs, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these corners real quick. And I am going to add it in. Now, we could use the logs where they have all 4 sides looking like this side. But again, we're keeping this survival friendly. So I kind of want to make sure that I'm building out of materials that are fairly easy to get. Wood is obviously fairly easy to get, especially spruce wood, considering that you can get the 2x2 tall, what's it called, mega trees. So this shouldn't be a challenge. I guess the only challenge would be actually finding spruce trees, because sometimes that is a challenge. Sometimes that is a challenge. But that's fine. So we'll go ahead and add this and this. And as you can see, the house is low-key kind of coming along now. You can kind of see the vision. And I'm going to go ahead and replace all the slime wool with our beautiful brick right here. Alright, and here we are. So I honestly think this shape is kind of working good. I think maybe it does feel kind of silly having both the bottom and the top be the same size, but I think honestly if you build this house one block into the ground, it'll kind of look and make more sense. Maybe. I don't know. We'll kind of just go with how it is though, because I honestly think it looks okay. But I guess let's start filling in the walls. So for the bottom at least, I do want to do a little bit of texturing because I mean we could go with this. Okay, let's just fill in the walls. All right, so here is how the wall looks when it's filled in. Personally, I don't think this is bad, but I think it looks a little too predictable. So I think what we can do, we can go ahead and punch out some blocks up here, some blocks here, and just, I guess, like, spice it up. Make it look like the wall is, like, I guess, crumbling under its own pressure. And this actually just gave me another idea. We could use polished andesite in the corners like this, and make it seem like this is like a tougher block that's holding it up together. And I just realized it's turning nighttime, so let me quickly fix that. Alright, and I am back. So, it's daytime. So yeah, as I was saying, we can go ahead and add this block in polished andesite to make it look like the house has a little bit more support. I'm gonna go through and I'm actually gonna add a bit more brick in a few places. We'll go ahead like that. And I think this honestly looks pretty good for our wall texture. All I have to do now is do it everywhere else. So I guess I'll be right back once I'm done with that. Alright, and here we are. I went ahead and did all the other sides, as you can see. And now the house looks a bit more interesting. Let me actually go ahead and add that in real quick. So yeah, the house now looks a lot more interesting. And I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. Turned out a lot better than I was thinking. But now we have to go ahead and do the upstairs. Yeah, but I think for the upstairs, we'll just fill in the walls, and I'm actually really liking this. There is a predictable design here. Let's do that. Me personally, I'm not very big on predictable designs. I like it to look a bit more random, and this does look kind of random. Apart from this indeed is not random. Like that. And yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how that texture turned out. I guess the next thing is probably the roof. Now, the way I want to tackle it is probably with deep slate bricks on the outside. So I'm actually gonna have to get some deep slate bricks right here, and our oh, I guess we don't have that. And yeah, I'm gonna go with spruce planks first, because I'm curious kind of how that will look. Hopefully, it doesn't look too bad. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm kind of just replacing my what's it called, my wool with the steep slate. But it is curious, how am I gonna do that? And now the roof has an interesting design to it, almost. It does look off though. There you go. So now the roof actually looks good and isn't all funky. And now what we want to do is we want to take in our spruce planks right across the top. Alright, and here is the roof. It looks pretty good. Did it on both sides, as you can see. Now we have this big hole here though, which is kind of awkward, and I'm not quite sure what I want to do here. I might continue this oak design up here though. Yeah, let's try this oak, because I don't really want to add in any other block into the block palette, because again, this is supposed to be like a base or house that you kind of build as you start your survival world. And yeah, I think we'll carry the oak upstairs. I think this is fine. Let's see, so if we do something like this, carry some of the design in there. I think, honestly, this looks pretty good. Let me, though, remove that. Yeah, there you go. Now it looks a lot better. But I do have to say that this looks very boring and very featureless. So I think now it's time to add some features like a front door. So I think we'll go ahead and make this side be the front. I think that makes sense. And we'll just go ahead and add door. I'm also going to get cobbled stairs real quick. Like that. And do that. So now we have a front door. But, I mean, we could add a stair and do that. But I think a lot of houses benefit from having a front porch, which is exactly what we're going to have. I think it's going to be cool. And we can go ahead and also add in some texture. And I think it would actually be pretty cool if we used oak trapdoors as a railing. We can go around like that. Made that one too low. Made that one too high. There you go. And honestly, this looks pretty dang sweet. Yeah, I think that looks pretty cool. But now it's time for the interior, which is pretty big if I think about it. I think for the wood floor, we're gonna go with just planks. Alright, so here how that looks, and I added 2 lanterns just so we can see a little bit inside. But I think let's add some natural lighting. I'm just gonna punch in 2 windows like that. I think I have no idea what I'm gonna do for the inside. So here, I guess let's add that and let's see how that looks. Ooh, that actually looks pretty sweet. Almost. It almost looks sweet. Hold on, let me lock in and think about this. What if I go triple window? Oh yeah. Because I feel like bases benefit when they have a lot of natural lighting. And now, wow, that looks super duper pretty. But we have to figure out a way to get upstairs. So I think what I'm gonna do for that is I'm gonna use oak, like so. And we're just gonna go ahead and do something like that. We're gonna use an oak block there. Planks. Now I'm kind of doing this backwards from what I usually do. Usually I decorate the first floor, then worry about the second floor, but I want to make sure that we have a decent way of getting upstairs. And I want to make sure that the house layout somewhat kind of at least makes sense. I think this makes sense. So now we have a front. You're going through the door. You got door. You got, I guess, staircase to the right. And now you're upstairs. Yeah, let me see. Can I repeat the staircase design and it still makes sense over here? If I can, that's just amazing. Okay, let's see. Yep, you go down, you go up, turn around. Probably do something like this here, though. Nice. And now you're on the second, third story, but let's worry about the first story, because I like to take my buildings one step at a time. I think that's very, very important. And the first step is the kitchen. So let's figure something out. First up, under my staircases, I love to add books. And this is actually pretty practical because we can go ahead and add some chiseled bookshelves. And it kind of looks like we can, like, sort of like enchanted books here. Have that look nice. For the inside, I am going to carry this cobblestone here. And we're going to make a wall. We're going to make a wall because I want to separate this out a bit. And use stone buttons out here. Just as a little more geometry. Can I put that there? Ooh, okay, we'll figure something out for there. But I think this looks fine. Then here, what we can do call me silly. I think we'll make this into a kitchen/dining area. So what we can do is we can grab brick, just over the way there. And this is just going to be a nice big kitchen. Oh, should we do it here? Or should we make a fireplace here? Kitchen, fireplace, dining. Oh no, this is kind of an awkward shape that I gave myself here. What if I push this back one? Where's here? Because this would low-key give us a little bit more space, which is kind of what I need right now. It goes into here. We can add another bookshelf up there. Oh, that's perfect because... Wow. I'm a genius, guys. I'm a genius. Okay, I think this looks pretty nice. It is pretty cramped in here, but this is just a way into the house. Yeah, okay, I think I like this. Okay. Now let's add some practicality to here. So we'll go boom boom. Oh, and actually let's go with smooth stone. I think smooth stone is a pretty good idea. And this looks alright. We'll use barrels because barrels are a bit more practical. I think that's pretty good. And we add some more barrels up here. And a thing that I like to do is I like to put signs on my barrels. This way, it kind of just changes up the vibes. Now here, we can't really put a sign. What we can put is a spruce stair. Like so. Put this here. Add a sign onto that. And what we can do is go something like that. I think that looks pretty good. You can copy this sign design up here. Grab spruce trapdoors. And boom, now we have a pretty dang cool kitchen. There is empty space up here though. So kind of have to decide what do we want to put up there. Not sure. Okay, well I figured what's the point of thinking, and let's just do. So we're gonna add some vegetation around the place. Personally, I love doing this. It's very nice, very easy to add some life into your build. We're gonna go ahead and add a knife here. And we're gonna put a weighted pressure plate here, so it kind of looks like a cutting board. Kind of a little, you know, you can imagine that's like a cutting knife, and this is a like a cutting board. It is out of iron. You could always replace it though with a birch one, and it looks just the same. So I think we'll go with that. But then for here, obviously this is kind of a weird empty space, and I think what we can do is add a candle like that. I think that looks pretty good. As well as that, it gives us some much needed lighting. Now for the kitchen, or I guess dining, we'll just go ahead and do something simple, I think. We're going to punch out some windows on this side as well. We can look and punch out a window here. And now the house has a lot of natural lighting, which is always good. I'm actually going to copy these candles over to here. Just so at nighttime, there's also some, you know, lighting in there. And then into this corner, we can add a very cool little plant called a flowering azalea. Oh. I lucky forgot Axiom does that. We can add that. And honestly, this looks like a very nice, lucky pretty kitchen. You have... Okay. You have a lot of barrels for... You have a lot of barrels for storage. You have a nice sink and water. Hidden barrel. Some more barrels. So here you could put like, you know, your seeds, your food, random excess, I guess you could say, items. And then also, if you ever need more furnaces, you could low-key cover up the ground like this, and now it just looks like a kitchen floor, which honestly I think we'll go with this. So this has 9 furnaces, which is honestly perfect. I think 9 furnaces is about where in survival you kind of want. We have lighting as well as natural lighting, so that's perfect. Upstairs is less so perfect, so let's figure out what we want to do here. Before we do that though, I guess let's also add in the flooring real quick. Alright, so here is what we're working with. We're working with 4 high stories and walls that lead obviously to the outside. So let's see what we can do. Now, honestly, I think what we're going to do is we're going to copy the design from downstairs with this nice little hallway. And we're going to copy that up here. And we're going to add strip logs like so as like a, what's it called? As a nice trim. But we're gonna go add us a little bit more space because I think what we're gonna do up here is this is gonna be a bedroom space. I think that's a pretty good idea. We can do it with that, and that means we'll make these walls double thick, which is cool because we'll be able to do some nice window designs. Now, obviously, this increases the cost of this house by quite a lot because we're doing some funky stuff. I think that's fine. And then inside, we're just gonna keep the walls nice and simple with oak planks, and I feel like this works because on the inside of the house there isn't too much noise. It's all nice and easy to follow. So here is how that looks like. Now, obviously, we're making this probably into our bedroom, so I do want some privacy, and I think what we can do is we can add door. Put the door like so. Punch. Oh, actually, yeah, punch that out. Grab ourselves some spruce trapdoors. And now if you go into here, this just looks like a grand door, which is not really the effect that I'm going for. So let's trim it down a bit. Nah, trying to see what looks good. Yeah, that looks good. I'm happy with that. So yeah, here you go. Nice little hallway. Now, not entirely sure what I can fit into this hallway. I'm gonna be honest, it's really not much. So I think we'll do some basic stuff like adding a railing that probably won't hurt. And we'll do a railing like that. Actually, we can do a railing all the way up. So this will give us a nice and interesting upstairs experience, I guess, right? So you walk in, kitchen for smelting and cooking. Come up here, bedroom for personal Minecrafting. And we're going to do a nice and grand window. Or not too grand, just grand. And I think we can do a bed. We'll go with a red bed, nice classic. Oh, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure on how to decorate this room. Alright, so here's kind of what I have going on so far. So we have our bed, nightstand with a barrel for storing stuff. And then in here, I'm thinking we add a closet, but I'm not entirely sure how I'm gonna do it here. I think, let's go grab an armor stand, right? Because I think we all enjoy having an extra set of armor, and plus we'll be able to display it, which is pretty sweet. Up top, we can add barrels, and then, hear me out, another barrel with a trapdoor on top, so it kind of looks a little bit more interesting. And then up here you have some more storage. And honestly, I think that works pretty good for them. But now we kind of have to figure out the window situation and lighting in here, and maybe what we want to do with the roof, because this is interesting. Alright, so here's what I got in my inventory so far. And I think what I'm gonna do, lighting-wise, boom, 4 candles, lights up the room. Nice. We can add red carpet, just add some more color into here. And I guess for another plant, because, hey man, greenery is good. And then, I think let's go grab some oak, block out an area, grab a random painting, and boom. I personally love adding paintings into my builds that are different. There you go. Because I feel like it just adds so much story and, like, color to the build that is very necessary to have. So now we have something nice going on, but let me actually flip where the candle is so we don't have too much greenery on one side and it's nice and spread out. But now for the window. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea. I'm lying. I have an idea. But I guess actually first let's work on the outside because I'm not really liking how it's looking right now. So let's add some basic supports. Alright, so here is how it looks, and I just kind of realized that low-key, we don't have enough windows upstairs. So I think we're gonna punch out this painting and add a window. We're gonna punch it out in the same spot as downstairs. And we're gonna add it up there. We're gonna add a window up here. We're gonna keep one painting though in the room. Because paintings add a lot. Obviously this looks pretty nice in my opinion. But we are gonna add a window up top, which doesn't align with the bottom one, because why would it align with the bottom one? So we have to move it on over. And then we also would like to go inside and do the same thing here. But now we have this awkward space here. And one thing that I saw a lot of builders do is they like to add fences into their windows. I don't know personally how much I like this. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really like it. I don't see the vision. So instead, we can add some red carpet. And for the outside, because we're not quite done, let's add some shutters. Alright, and so here is how it looks now with shutters. And I think this honestly added a lot of necessary detail. As you can see, I did remove some here because it kind of looked goofy with all of them having trapdoors. But yeah, now this house looks a little bit more like a house, which is awesome. We can walk inside. We have a nice bedroom. You can look outside the window. You can look outside of here, which is pretty nice. Then you also have this here, which looks pretty. But now's the upstairs time. Now up here, I kind of have some ideas floating around. And first one is punching out nice 3x3 windows. Grabbing those glass planes and fitting them inside of here. I think this looks pretty dang sweet because it adds a lot of natural light. We can grab some spruce stairs. We also need slabs. I didn't really think about that. And what we can do is we can add little tables here. Why? Because tables are fancy. Tables are nice. And we're also going to shrink down the room by 1. This is nice. It gives us limited space to play. We also have these 2 opposite ends of the room, I guess. And what I want to do is punch in some holes, both sides. Why? Because I want to add windows into the roof. Because before this, the roof was kind of plain and boring. But I feel like if we go ahead and add something like this, One, we can add a whole lot of natural light to our pretty Sigma-looking roof. Go boom, boom. But this also ends up adding a lot of variation to our roof instead of it just being kind of flat, and boring with the same design throughout it. So there you go. I think that looks, yeah, I think I like that a lot. We're gonna go down the middle, make sure that that is stair, stair. So yeah, not bad at all. Loving it, loving it. But I think what we can do is just a quick piece of detail. We can add in a brick and granite wall right up here. And we're just going to pretend that somewhere down there we have, I guess, like like the smoke from the kitchen. Oops, all the way down. Like the smoke from the kitchen just gets rerouted up here. I think that looks pretty cool. Alright. Add some variation, adds some colors coming out. And honestly, it does not look too bad. So if we go into the inside, go up, looks very nice. And one thing that we can actually do to add some more depth and make the windows look a bit more normal is, okay, I guess maybe not this one, but this one, like that. And so now we have a pretty interestingly shaped upstairs. And I think this is where our crafting room is going to be. So what we can do is one, lantern, make sure it is sufficiently lighting up the room with plenty of light. That's very, very important. And we kind of want to find out what all the functional blocks are, so let's quickly set all that down. Alright, so my inventory is pretty much full of all the blocks that we kind of want to use. And I think for here, for example, we can do something... Actually, no. We'll do something like this. And then, hear me out. Bookshelf. Boom, boom. Now, this upstairs is a little bit cramped, so we are going to be making do with a lot of the space up here, which is fun. We just have to be a little bit creative about where we place some blocks and stuff like that. That's fun. When you're building a base, it's all about trying to fit stuff in where you can't, I guess. Anvil, we can add right there. That takes that out. Jukebox, I think we could actually fit right here. You have a music discs in here. That's good. Composter we'll leave for later. Same with stonecutter. So we got this out of the way. Crafting table done. Loom and cartography table we'll just put in the wall. And actually we'll flip spots like that so you can see that. Oh, photography table. Oh, loom. But we have a pretty big problem, and that problem is storage. We do not have any good storage in this house, which kind of sucks because, when you're playing the game, especially survival, you're going to be picking up a whole lot of blocks you won't really know what to do with. And you don't really have the opportunity of just saying like, oh, yeah, whatever. Don't eat these blocks. And obviously in survival, you kind of want to make sure that you have storage. So I think let's just find random pockets where we can throw stuff in. For example, 2 barrels right there. We could add barrel, barrel, block, barrel, barrel. So I think that's pretty good. Obviously not good. Up here, though, this is all stairs. So what we can do is we can be silly and we can just do... Alright, so here's kind of what I would do if I had to plan this base, pretty much, I don't really know what I'd use these for. This I'd obviously use for maps, this for banner stuff. But this is kind of what I would decorate with. And then the best thing is, these right here are also stairs, so we can very easily go ahead and expand our stone, for example, or our dirt, or our wood, or whatever. We can also add, oh, that's probably gonna break. We can also add another set of barrels here. So it's not the prettiest way of, you know, having storage, but I think, if you're playing with friends and you're kind of being smart about your storage, and you guys have like a storage central system, this could work. But we still have 2 blocks that we still need to do. For example, stone cutter, like a spell, and composter. Now, you might be wondering, what are you gonna do with these things? But I have an idea. Anyway, so here's what I was kind of thinking. So, for example, on the side of the house, on this boring, undecorated side, you could go ahead and have yourself a nice little garden with whatever crop you want. I just kind of put wheat here because wheat looks pretty nice when it's fully grown. But yeah, I personally think this looks pretty good. I didn't really do too much with the wall. I just kind of put oak leaves in a random, uh, in a random way. Sprinkled in some spruce fences to make it look like it's kind of like a bush growing, maybe. Um, you could cover the tops. But I don't know. I kind of like it as is. Let me actually remove these. They look a little bit silly. But yeah. So this is how I'm gonna put my composter in the space. Now for the saw, I did not mean to say for the saw. I meant for the stone cutter. I kind of have a pretty cool and interesting way that I like to um use this block. And I like to use this block like in a very like realistic type of way, right? Because for example, usually this type of saw, you really see it like mills, right? So for example, what you could do is we could do this, and it looks like, oh, someone, chopping a tree, a log in half, and they're gonna use the stone cutter, which is like our sawmill in this case, to mill it down. But then we can go a step further. We can add some nice laying down logs, like so. Put some campfires all over the place. Then it'll extinguish them. So now it looks like, oh, they've prepared some nice logs. And then if we want to take it a step further, we can go ahead add this and make it look like, oh, the person living here tied them down so they don't roll away, right? In my opinion, this is a pretty nice way of using the sawmill. Sawmill. Sorry, the stone cutter. But we still have a few more empty walls. For example, here, which we can't really do much about. So we'll just go ahead and fill it in like we don't know what's going on in there. This wall here, I mean, I guess that would really be all, especially this stone wall here. It's kind of weird. So I think what we're going to do is add in one more thing that I personally like to have at my base. I don't know about you guys, but it's a nice little horse stable. In my opinion, not enough people build this. A horse stable is very important, and horses are pretty dang cool. Why did I grab a birch one? I don't know. But let's go ahead, and we're just going to do a nice, simple, slow inclining roof here. We're not going to give it an overhang, seeing as fences kind of already do that for us. We're not going to do that. But we still have this empty wall here. Nah, it's fine. We can go in, spawn a horse, and, if we want to add a little bit more detail, we can actually take that. Oh, sorry, horse. Trying to give you a water trough. And let's add some hay. Sorry, dude, your hitbox is absolutely ginormous. But now you have a nice little spot for you and your horse. And you know what? Because I really can't stand looking at this empty wall. It's just, it's kind of annoying me. So what we'll go ahead is we'll include like that. And then we can add trapdoors as shutters. And how did you... Oh, that makes sense. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's... Yeah. Oh, hey, would you look at that? The horse was in there the whole entire time while I built that shutter, and it totally didn't jump out. And our base looks pretty dang cool. What I'm gonna go do is I'm gonna add a few more final touches. Just decorate the place around it, and I guess we'll take a look at how that looks. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and here is what I have built. As you can see, I decorated it around with some trees, which you're just gonna have to imagine that this is like a pretty full, busy forest. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with how this build turned out. I also added this wheelbarrow here, because I did forget to use the grindstone. But as you can see, this house looks pretty dang sweet, honestly. Adding the pathway helped a lot. And I guess let's do a quick little tour of the inside. As you can see, very nice, very pretty. First floor, we got a kitchen with some bookshelves. Second story, nice, beautiful bedroom. Yep, very nice. I mean, that ass right now. Yeah. And then we run upstairs, and we have a nice Minecrafting space, which you could replace any one of those anvils with a grindstone, but I kind of forgot to do that. And that is this house. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, because I will be posting a lot more Minecraft building videos in the future because I love Minecraft building. I love building in Minecraft. I think it's pretty dang cool. So yeah, I guess enjoy the cinematic little shader tour, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.